Hello and welcome to the program Hot Button. Many circumstances in life have put a lot of people in a position whereby they just can't handle the future aright. Sounds like a very, very tough statement. However, there are some young people who, by virtue of either mistake, wrong choices, or circumstances beyond their control, have found themselves to be single parents or even divorced at a very young age. And that is what we will be looking at today on Hot Button. My name is Johnny, and with me on the program are
Theodore Dixon
and
Samuel Goikubanfor.
All right, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It is always a delight when we have parents here with us on this set to discuss things that pertain to young people.
Thank you.
Today we want to look at this particular topic that have actually bedeviled some young people and have actually put their future happiness, on the line. Now we are looking at dating a single parent or a divorcee with a prospect for marriage. For every single mother out there, there is a single father somewhere.
So I can allow her to be the mother of the child and having a father of the child with her. But then when she's playing the role of a wife to the man, when I'm dating her, that I won't accept.
It could be that I like the man, his children don't even like me.
But once you have one, you have two. No.
Now, what would be your opinion if your child is dating a single parent or a divorcee as a parent?
The first thing is to find out what circumstances or factors have led to that status. What has brought about, the status of a single parent. So because when you mention a single parent, it means that that person has either married before or has a child out of wedlock.
Exactly.
I think that definition of a single parent is not very stereotyped.
Not far-fetched.
Yeah, it's either somebody has married, and is divorced, or has not married at all but has a child.
Has lost a spouse.
Or has lost a spouse. That also could be a single parent.
Exactly.
And then when somebody is divorced, it means that the idea of being divorced is that you're married before. A single parent could also be, when we talk about, void marriages. That's what those in the legal, world call void marriages. That is when you have cohabited with someone for a number of years and you had children. You have lived like husband and wife, but there was nothing binding two of you legally, or traditionally there are no marital rights settled or something, but you have just lived as husband and wife. So such marriages can be voided, and when that happens, it could also produce single parents. So to find out what has led this person to this status is the first thing to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to find out what led to this particular situation, because sometimes it could also be our child or the person that our child is bringing to the house. Okay, so let's hear from you.
I think I share Theodore's viewpoint when he talks about investigating, because from the onset, if a child comes and says, "Dad, Mom, I want to get married to someone who's divorced," you're like, what's happening? Because no parents initially would want their child to get married to someone who has already had a previous experience, or to someone who has had children from another experience. Every parent would want their child to have a fresh experience.
Why is that fresh? What is that fresh experience?
Well, fresh experience because every other experience comes along with some baggage. And so if you're getting involved into someone's life who has had a previous life, you're not just getting attached to that person. You also have to deal with the baggage that comes with it.
That is it.
So it calls for concern. It calls for concern.
And every parent is concerned about that.
Yeah, because you call us parents and we understand what it means to be a parent.
Okay.
And we know that marriage on its own is not easy. It's not a joke. So if marriage is complex, some have referred to it as a bittersweet experience. So if it is, when you are dealing with one that is fresh, what happens when you are coming with baggages already?
Okay.
Yeah, I usually tell people that God made Adam and Eve fresh from his hand, yet they had issues. And if people that God made fresh by his own hand, not procreation, had issues, then we need to cut short.
How much more we?
How much more you and I?
Okay.
So if I am already married, if I have married a first wife, I had got some experiences, it means that there is a lot that has happened, and your experiences have ways of shaping us. It could be for good, it could be for bad, but as much as possible, it's fine that you start this thing on a clean slate and then know you understand what you're dealing with.
Well, it seems like this thing bothers parents, and like she said, every parent wants the child to have a fresh start. Fresh start. Is it that there are disadvantages to marrying a single parent or a divorcee? Why that fresh start?
My people will say, if you are not there when a corpse is buried and you are asked to go and exhume it, you will start from the legs.
Okay.
Because if you want to exhume a corpse, you trace the head first.
Okay.
But if you are not there when it was buried and you go to exhume, you start from the leg, and that is trouble for you. And what it means is that if you don't find out what the problem was or is, and you get involved, that problem will swallow you. Swallow you. So it's important that you find out what it is. And then besides, the Bible also has established principles on what and what not to do when it comes to either single parenting or divorce. I think the Bible speaks so much more about the divorcees than it speaks about single parents, because single parenting could result from a premarital sexual experience, or that I have lost my spouse. If I have lost my spouse, then I am free to marry someone else. That wouldn't be a problem. What I should be dealing with is, what exactly was the problem with these people? Were there issues? I was just watching a movie, and then I saw a lady kill the husband and the father-in-law. She killed two of them, and then handed herself over to the police. And somebody was sympathizing and said, this woman is wicked. And then the storyline says, wait and hear her own story before you call her wicked. So there are a lot of intrigues involved, even when you hear that somebody has died. So you need to find out all of that. So whatever the case, it's important to find out were there character traits that bedeviled that previous relationship, or if the person was not divorced and is a single parent, what are the traits that led to the person conceiving before marriage, or that's if it's a lady now. And those traits, have they been removed completely? It's not that one should what do you call it, stigmatize. It's not that one should stigmatize the other person, but it's good to find out and then be sure that whatever the issues are not things that will bedevil your own relationship, because the overall interest of parents is the well-being of your child.
Okay, let me hear from you. Sam, is there a particular thing you can refer to as, this is a disadvantage, this is a red card, do not get into this because of this disadvantage?
I think when a child, well, we're talking about young adults here, gets involved in a relationship with someone, for example, who has had a child from previous relationship, whatever the circumstances, he has talked about investigating those circumstances. But whatever the circumstances, the children are there, they are present. And that person has to deal with that reality. Now somebody else comes into the picture, one begins to wonder what happens with the interference. So sometimes you've had a child, from someone, you want to get married to another person, but the partner, the person with whom you had the child, is very much alive.
Okay.
And there are circumstances in life that will require that both of you come together. I mean, the previous relationship. So you wonder what happens to my child that gets into this relationship, and the child is not living that relationship alone with his or her partner, because there is the interference of some third party who is supposed to be a former party, yes, but who is present and active. I know, for example, there are some cultures whereby when a child wants to get married, even if the father is married to a different woman, when it comes to the issue of marriage, the two biological parents must come together. And sometimes they even need to dress in uniform because that's their child. And so you are legally married to someone, but that person shares a life with some other person.
And then you don't know if you're attending it or you're staying back home and all that kind of stuff.
Even if you attend, one thing is sure, you're not in prime position involved, because the mother of this other child, or the father, yes, is present. So you have that issue of interference. And still talking about children, somebody who has, I'm talking much more from the viewpoint of one who is a single parent. Someone who has children before would also be concerned about how this new relationship he or she wants to get involved in would affect his or her child. And so you see that from the onset, there's divided attention.
There's a lot, to battle
you have to deal with my children being comfortable with this new person that's coming in. And when the children sometimes are hostile, especially if they are young adolescents and they don't want any other person in their parents' life, except for the biological parent they knew, it raises lots of issues. So I think these are some of the advantages. There are many more, but
a little bit of tension here and there.
Because again, apart from all of that, there is also shared, emotional split. Because if I had been in a relationship with you, male or female, look, you can cut it off, but there is still the chemistry. You can only suppress it, because we had something before. And so by the time, sometimes if you go to court, the court will say, okay, some level of restriction, but today, access. You sue for access. And then each time you come to see your child, you look at me. I look at you. So somehow, it might happen the day that the new wife or the new husband, both of you have issues. Okay? And then you look at this other person, she looks at you, he looks at you. And then two of you are walked up. Before you know it,
there's a spark.
There's a spark.
Or you just want to discuss something about your child, with that particular
and then you have to do that, have that discussion. In some places like New Zealand, around that area, people boast of many exes, X1, X2, X3, X4, and sometimes they can even, they're not like Africans. Sometimes those exes can come back together, have some fun, have some casual sex, walk away. So it's not that the door is shut. For us in Africa, if I divorce you, the door is locked. In fact, we become enemies.
Exactly.
So, but even in this our situation where, in most cases, people become enemies after a divorce, there is still the room that, like what Sami has said, sometimes occasions will bring you together. And before you know it, emotions are worked up. And before sometimes when your marriage has trouble, I tell people about 65% of couples who separate go back to their ex. And why? Because there was a string of emotion that is holding the chemistry that is holding them together. So the continuous presence of that spouse is a threat to your present relationship. On the other hand, you could also see that other woman will be concerned over how does this new wife or how does this new husband treat my child. So, and always interfering. Before you know it, there is a link with the child, want to hear everything that is going on. And if the other woman finds out that this child is relating everything happening in my house to the other one, extension. So you can save yourself all of that trouble by getting clean.
Wow. But you see, well said. And I'm very, very much sure that a lot of young people are, getting these, points that we are making here today. Now, there are some people who have put into consideration all that we have stated. And then they say, no matter what, I love this person. I want to go ahead. Where your child is involved in a situation like that, okay, I still want to go ahead. I understand everything perfectly. I'm ready to go along with it. How do you help such a child to, you know, either manage it well or not even get into it at all?
As a marriage counselor, you know, the point is that you don't force anybody against his or her will. God doesn't do it. God doesn't do it. You don't have to do it.
Okay.
What you can do is to, what I will do as a person is to call your attention to the implications, let you know the implications. And once you make up your mind that you want to go ahead, I won't stop you. All I can do is to help you, you know, get it right. Because again, some persons are wired differently. In the face of all of these disadvantages we've talked about, some people are able to walk through certain circumstances and still come out, you know, come out fine. Because the Bible is full of examples of seemingly dysfunctional situations that out of it God still made out something good. Okay, it's not the ideal from the biblical point of view, because when God made Eve for Adam, there were no attachments. There were no attachments, but in a sinful world full of dysfunctionalities, when somebody finds him or herself in that situation, the woman who is a divorcee to be divorced is not a death sentence. That person should have a life to live. And if you are also a man in that case, you should have a life to live. But you should be able to count your cost and know that these are the possible challenges that may come with this thing, and then make up your mind to deal with it, so that when they come, you're not surprised, because they will certainly come. So when those things come, you now find a way of dealing with it, so you can also find happiness, because the most important thing is that you are able to achieve, you know, marital bliss, irrespective of what the challenges may be.
Okay, let me hear from you. How would you handle a situation like that? Will either help discourage the person or encourage the person with all the necessary advice that the person needs to get into it?
Willingness, as Theodore has said, is key. You first of all want to find out if your child is willing to get into that relationship. And the other thing I would do is to advise that child to take it slow, because sometimes it's in rushing that we make mistakes. You see this person, you probably like the person, but you're really not conscious of all that it takes for you to run through such a relationship. So one would advise patience. Take your time and investigate all there is to be investigated, and such investigation only, you know, happens with time. Because if you're rushing, you're looking at marriage right ahead, you may not have the opportunity to check through what really happened in the first relationship. We have talked about the person's character traits, the person's temperament, you know, what was the problem. Even in the case of death, you want to find out if this person has really mourned that relationship, if this person has had closure. I remember a time when I was very much younger, there was this man who lost his wife and married another woman. And every Sabbath, when we come for Sabbath school, his present wife was there. But he was always telling the story that involved his former wife. You know, my former wife this, my late wife this. And I was very young, but I often wondered, how does this woman cope living in the shadow of some other woman? And like, he's really not separated yet. There's still a link, even if that person is not alive. So you need time to go through all of these processes before you can be sure that, you know, at least you can handle the challenges and you can face the situation. Okay,
you have to make the child or the person, whoever is going into a thing like that, take his or her time.
Yeah,
investigate, understand the things that lie ahead that you're going to face, and then be ready, you know,
to accept
those things, and then be mature enough to know that you have once been advised about these things.
Well, Johnny, the point is that there are two people that are difficult to be advised. The first one is a young man or a young lady who suddenly ran into fortune. Maybe dad or mom died and left assets, the willed so much to you that millions of naira that you never thought of. To advise such people is difficult.
Very difficult.
The second one is a young man or a young woman who has fallen in love. To advise is difficult. So we need to understand that. Because at the point, they are crazy, and there is something that happens that this is what I want. It's like
they only see the beautiful side.
It's like a cock that is running after a hen. If you have watched that scenario, even if the cock climbs up, the hen climbs up, the cock follows. It runs under the table, it follows. But it is only when the deed is done that you now realize that, oh, I have made mistakes. I have, what the example she gave is something important. A young lady came to talk to me that a young man is talking to her, and I said, who is he? He said he has been married before, is a widower. The wife just died, not up to 3 months, and he's talking to somebody else. He wants to get married.
That's quite quick.
Did he? Yes, he is alone. But the point is that, what did that wife mean to you over the years that you suddenly forgot about her in a couple of days? So we also need to check the value that men or women place on their spouses, previous spouses. It could be that they were quite insensitive on all of that. So to any young person who is watching, it's important to slow down. Like Sami said, sometimes people are infatuated. Many people who want to get married don't even understand what love is.
Exactly.
So it's good to slow down, because this thing is a baggage.
Okay.
I don't want to call it second-hand, but I want to tell you that the other person is coming with a lot of experiences. Some may have also come out of those experiences and are better.
And learned.
And they have learned. And so it's an advantage.
It's an advantage.
But because you don't know how, you don't understand it, it's something you need to take your time and prayerfully, go through it. Because if it ends well, it is for you. If it doesn't end well, it's for you to take. And then the children, the children that are coming from the previous relationship, you should also be able to have the resources to take care of them, and also prepare to take care of your own children, because it comes with assets and also liabilities.
Okay, but now let's look at this. There are certain people who, as a result of maybe ignorance at a very young age, or some circumstances that they never really understood, were unfortunately put in this position of bearing children at a very young age. Some maybe as a result of rape. Some are just a result of deception, they didn't know about it. And then, and maybe in cases of divorce, you marry someone who is already married, but you did not know, or let's say somehow you're jinxed or hypnotized, and you get in a situation like that. At that moment, when we have understood the circumstances surrounding the reason for this person being in this particular situation, can we encourage someone, okay, since this is the reason, you can go ahead and marry the person?
Well, for a single parent, it's easier, like I said earlier.
Okay.
For somebody who has not been married before, everybody makes mistake.
Okay.
That may be your own mistake. Like I said, it's not a death sentence.
Okay.
That person can marry. Okay. If the person who wants to marry you, I know of somebody close to me who is a widow. She wants to get married, but the point is that the negotiation is what happens to my child. Okay. Are you taking my child alongside? I don't want my child to suffer. If coming to marry me, we put my child in a bad situation, I better stay without remarrying. Okay, so those negotiations will be done. But for a single parent, somebody who hasn't married before but made a mistake, yeah, the person should get married. If he or she had learned a lesson and you get to know what happened, like I said, investigation, that's what I said earlier. When you investigate and saw that, oh, it was a mistake, this person was naive, the person was raped or something, and now the person has matured and understand what it's all about, yeah, the person can get married. The discussion should be around what happens to the child.
What happens?
What happens to the child?
All right.
Are you taking the child along, or is the child staying back with your parents? Okay, so the gentleman or the lady, at the case may, because it could happen either ways.
Yes.
Should be able to make a decision on what the welfare of the child that was born, and once that decision is made, then marriage can happen. But for someone who has been married before, either you married out of ignorance or something, The Bible gives conditions for divorce. Matthew chapter 19, if you go through from verses 3 down, I'm not able to read all of that now.
Okay.
You know, but if I read verse 3, the Pharisees also came to him, testing him and saying to him, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for just any reason? And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female, and for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And if you go to verse 9, it says, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery, and whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. So there are biblical positions on when to divorce, the reason for divorce, and what happens to one who has been divorced.
Okay.
So all of that should be checked properly before you get involved with somebody who has once married.
Yeah. Okay, let me hear from you on based on what he has said.
I think everyone has a right to be loved.
Okay.
And so even if somebody has had a first experience that didn't turn out right, and we have checked what has to be checked, you know, and,
Okay.
and that person is alone and wants to have a relationship, and there are positive factors. I think it's something that one can encourage. In a case where there are kids, for example, especially underage young children, those children may need a role model. Those children may need the other parent. You know, I don't think the Bible, God did not create us to live as single parents. It's like this is just circumstantial. He created us that there'll be a father, there'll be a mother, and there'll be children in a home. So if that imbalance can be restored and everything that has to be checked has been checked, it's something that one can look into. Because even the person himself, the male or the female, is also in need of love.
Exactly.
Everyone needs
All right.
that.
All right. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today.
Thank you.
We have learned so much from this discussion. And trust me, there is someone out there who has, you know, gotten a new feel to the side of that particular situation. Thank you so much, Pastor, for being a part of the program. Thank you so much, Madam.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I am sure you've learned something new today. If you are in a situation like that, it is not a death sentence. Nobody has condemned outrightly the situation you're in today. All you need to do is to get the right information, take your time, study the situation before you can move along into marriage. And we thank you for being a part of the program today. Hoping you'll be part of us same time and we'll come your way again. Until then, God bless you.